Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about classes and objects, the third part of object-oriented programming and the first feature of object-oriented programming. Okay, so in the previous video, we have talked about how we define class, what exactly self is, and what are class methods, what are class variables, what is data abstractions and encapsulation. The part of encapsulation we're going to talk about in this video also. Okay, how do we create objects, how do we define classes, everything. Okay, you can check out the I button so that you can refer that video. Okay, so in this video we're going to talk about init method, one of the most important good practicing method. Okay, good practice method. We're going to talk about classes, variables and object variables. We're going to talk about one of the most famous del method, and we'll talk about more methods also, built-in methods also. Talk about basic public and private data members and private methods. Okay, let's get into it quick. So we have init method, which is also called as the class constructor. Okay, so the init method have a special significance in Python class. Okay, it is very important when we talk about classes. Init method is important. So init method is automatically executed when an object of the class is created. We do need to initialize it, we do need to write that particular function, but it is automatically executed. We don't need to call it out in the object. Okay, so it is automatically executed when an object of the class is created. Okay, so this method is used to initialize the values or the variables of the class object. Okay, whatever values, whatever variables we're going to use in the particular class, we're going to initialize those variables in our class, in this class basically, in this method basically. So init method is where we initialize all the variables of the class object. Okay, we should note that it is very much important that this init method is having two underscores at the beginning and two underscores at the end. Okay, so it is prefixed and suffixed with double underscore characters. Okay, so the init method can be declared as we have like this. We have def, we have init, we must have a self argument as we know, and then we have some set of arguments. Okay, and then it is good programming habit to initialize all the attributes in the init method. Okay, so let's take an example where we are going to have a class variable, we are going to have a class ABC as usual. Okay, we don't put parentheses in classes. Okay, so we have class ABC where we are going to define init method. Okay, so init method is where we initialize all our variables. Okay, all our variables. So we have self, which is compulsion, and then we have set of all the arguments. So I have one argument over here, that is val. Okay, so I write like print in, it is in class method. Okay, because I told you we are not going to call this particular method when we create an object. We are not going to call this method. It is automatically going to get called by the class or the object. Okay, so this is what we're going to print, and we're going to say like self dot val is equals to val. Okay, so this is important, like self dot the argument which is equals to that argument or whatever, if you want to rename it. Okay, and then I'm going to say like print the value is val. Okay, so this is what I'm going to get out of the class, and I'm going to say like object is equals to ABC, and I'm going to input the value. Okay, I have inputted 10 letters suppose. Okay, so let us save it and run this. Okay, so I must get what I must get in class method, and the value is 10. Okay, so we have not called this particular method. No, we haven't called this method. We said like object dot underscore init underscore and the argument. No, we haven't, because when we create an object, it is automatically getting called by the object we create. Okay, so let's move forward. So this is very much good practice to call this. Okay, so very important that you should have init where you initialize all the attributes. Okay, moving forward, what are class variables and object variables? We have seen that classes have variables which is defined in it. Okay, so basically these variables are of two types, that is class variables and object variables. As the name suggests that key class variables are the variables which are owned by classes, and object variables are the objects which are, or the variables which are owned by each objects. Okay, what this specifically means is that we can understand like, okay, let's see, class are owned by the classes and objects are variable owned by objects. The object variable is not shared between objects. Object variables are not shared between objects. Okay, the change which is made by an object variable by one object will not be reflected in other object. Okay, if you change the variables from in one object, like if you initialize class and you input, you have a method, okay, where you input value 10, and in other method you input value 12 by using dot operator and object, that is not going to reflect, okay, the previous object. Okay, it's just going to reinitialize it. If a class has one class variable, then there will be only one copy of that class variable. All the objects of that class will share the class variable. Okay, will share the same class, and we're going to share the same variable also. Okay, so since there exists a single copy of the class variable, any changes made to the class variable of an object will reflect in all other objects. Okay, if you change the class variable, okay, there's difference between class variable and object variable. I'm repeating it again. Class variables are the variables which are owned by class, which is in the scope of class. When you talk about object variables which are owned by objects, okay, in the main program where you write, we can have multiple objects and we can have multiple values for that objects. Like if I have a function, like in the previous example, I can create an object over here, not here, over here I can create an object like obj abc, and I can say like I need to have 12 over here. Okay, if I save it and if I run it, it's going to run 2 times. Okay, it's going to run 2 times. It's going to print 10 and 12. Is that clear? So object variables are the variables which are based on that object. If I change the value of val on this particular function, then that will be the problem. That is going to affect these two. Okay, this is important to understand. Like, since there exists a single copy of the class, you cannot change class variable because there is just a single copy of class variable, but you can change object variables because we can create multiple objects in our main function, or sorry, in our main function, in our main code. Okay, moving forward. So we have one of the most important thing again. Okay, let us have an example which explains class variables and object variables. Okay, we have this class function where we have a class variable. I'll initialize a class variable as as 0. Okay, so I'll write a comment so that it is as class variable. Okay, so this is class variable. Then inside my init initialization function, I write like abc dot class var plus equals to 1. So inside the init function, I'm incrementing the class variable. Okay, and then I write self dot var equals to var. Okay, so I need to change because I'm using var now. So var. Okay, so what is this? This is object variable. This is what? This is object. This is object variable, and then I'm going to say like to print, delete it. I'm going to print the object value. I'm going to print the object value, which is, I'm going to say like the var. Okay, and then I'm going to say say the value of class variable, class value. Okay, and I'm going to say like how I'm going to call it out. I'm going to say like abc dot class and then var. Okay, so this is the class variable and this is the object variable. abc dot class var is an object variable. Okay, so now I say like object 1. Okay, like object 1 is equals to this. I say like object 2 is equals to 12, and if I want to add one more object, like object 3 is equals to abc 13, let's say. Okay, so if I save it and if I run it, I hope I don't get any error because I don't see any. Okay, so what we have is we have object 10, we have class variable 1 then, okay, and then we have object value 12 and we have class value 2. Okay, you can see like here the value is getting incremented. First we have value 0, and then as it went inside the object, or as it went inside the method, we see that we have had an incrementing. So it's getting incremented as we update the value. So this is class variable, and this is class class variable and object variable. Okay, let's move forward. Now we have another important thing which is called as a del method. Okay, so in the previous slide we have seen that we have an init. Okay, we have init method which is initialized, or we can say like which is predefined. Similarly, we have a del method which does the opposite work. What it does is the del method is automatically called when an object is going out of scope. Okay, whenever an object is going out of scope, we're going to call the del method. Okay, this is the time when an object will no longer be used and its occupied resources are returned back to the system so that they can be reused as when required. Okay, so okay, wait, now let's move to interactive shell so that we can understand more about what exactly del is. I'm going to rub it out. So we have a class ABC. Okay, we don't put. Okay, now see, we have class var is equals to 0, so this is a class variable. Okay, we have def init and we have self, of course, and we have val. Okay, now init, I'm having the same thing, abc dot class var plus equals to 1, let's say. Okay, and we have self dot var is equals to, okay, let's do the same thing what we have done in the previous. Okay, we have this. Okay, and I said to print the class variable. Now I have another function which is a def function, which is also going to have self for sure. Okay, now here what I do is abc dot class var minus equal to 1. Okay, and I say to print like object with val or value, like I want to put an object, so I'm using a formatting. Space formatting is going out of scope. Okay, and I write like self dot var. Now if I do like del, okay, so when I write def, sorry, this is del, not def. When I write del function or del method, so I'm going to use del keyword. Okay, so del object 1, so I'm going to delete this objects 1, object 2, and del object 3. Let's see what output we get. Okay, so 1 2 3, the same output, and then we have object will be object with value 10 is going out of scope. Okay, object with value 12 is going to it's going out of scope. So thus we see that the del is invoked when the object is going to be it is about to destroy. Okay, so this method might be used to clean up any resources which is used by it. Okay, whenever we use anything that is not important, we can use this method, okay, to delete stuff. Okay, so there are some other methods also. What are those methods? Those methods can be REPR, which is nothing but the representation of an object. Okay, which it is going to convert an object into a string representation. Then we have CMP. It is going to compare. Okay, it is going to compare two classes. In fact, this function can even compare two Python objects by using the equality operator. Okay, comparing, try it out, comparing objects. Then we have length, checking the length. We have hash. Hash is what we're going to see when we study data structures. But hash is what? Hash is a function which is by which we will be able to put and particular object in the particular location. Okay, so this is had we have get items by which we can print an item, set item, we can set the value of that particular item. Okay, so these are different type of methods. Okay, so this hash data structure is generally, you know, sets and dictionaries. Okay, so these are another, I'll give you a document in the description where I'm going to put all this different type of, you know, different type of built-in methods which are there in Python. Okay, these are special methods. Let's move forward. Now it's very important, what is public and protected data, or sorry, public and private data, okay, or protected, whatever. So we have public and private data. Private is nothing but protected, where we're protecting our stuff. So let's see, what is private variable. So private variables are the variables which can be accessed throughout our code. Okay, throughout our code or throughout our class. So throughout our class in the sense, what, inside the scope of class also, and outside the function, outside the class also. Then what we have, private variables. Private variables are the variables which cannot be accessed from anywhere in the program, but there are still ways by which we can, you know, access those data. Let's move to interactive shell and see how we can, you know, have private as well as public data. Now we have class ABC and we have def init. So here we're going to initialize everything. Of course, self is the first argument, and then let's say we have var1, variable 1, and variable 2. Okay, so now inside this I'm going to do like self dot var1, okay, is equals to var. Now see the difference. Self dot underscore underscore var2 is equals to var2. Here I have protected, or let's say privated, or I have made the variables to private. In the previous video we have seen that we can make the variable or object, or yes, class variable or class method private by using 2 underscore characters in the front, or prefixing it with 2 underscore character. Let's say def display. Okay, and I'm going to add self, of course. Then I'm going to write print, okay, from class method var1, okay, is equals to, so value of 1 will be self dot var1. Okay, so this will be accessed. There will be no problem accessing variable 1. But as we try to access the second, we must get an error. Let's see what we get. Okay, so write the same thing. So let's copy and paste, and let's do like var2 but with 2 underscore characters, prefixing it with 2 underscore characters. Okay, so from class method we have var1 as equals to self dot var1, and we have the second variable as self dot underscore underscore val2. Now let's create objects. We have obj is equals to abc, and we are giving the program two inputs, the 2 variables 10 and 20. And if I say to object dot display, okay, object dot display, so, and now if I try to print, like print from main module, so we can use display method to print both. But if I try to print it from outside the scope of the class, that is this what I am doing. So from main module, var1 will create no issue having, you know, accessing the variable. So var1, let's see, then print the same thing. So what, this is protected, so var2, and I say like var2. Okay, so this is it. Let's see, let's run it, let's save it. We get an error. The first thing got printed, the display object got printed that we have in class method. We have the thing like, oops, what happened? We have got an error, not for that but for something else. Okay, here we don't put self, no, here we call for an object. We use object for assessing the assessing the variables which are inside class. Sorry for this. Okay, now we're going to get something error. Yes, we have class method. From class method we have assessed, like the first variable also, second variable also, though it was protected because we have assessed it through the scope of the class. But when we try to assess it outside the close of the class, we get outside the scope of the class, we get the public variable, but we haven't got the protected one. Okay, we get an error like attribute error. ABC attribute has no, it denies that we have any attribute like variable 2, so it is protected, that you cannot access it. Okay, so let's see how can we access it. So but for some reason, if you want to access it, then you can access the private variables using the syntax like this. So you're going to create an object name. Okay, then we're going to create a class name but with a single underscore character, and then we have double underscore character and a private variable. Let's see. Okay, I want to access it, so I'm going to write, so this is going to give me an error. Let's write for print from main module. Okay, from main module var2. Okay, I'm accessing var2, but how I'm going to access? I'm going to write first of all object. I'm going to use the dot operator, of course, and then I'm going to write the class ABC, and then I'm going to write the variable 2. Okay, so let's see this runs or this helps or not. Accessing private variable. Yes, we are able to access the private variable, but you can see when we simply try to access it, we were not able to. But when we use this particular code, object dot class name with an underscore character and double underscore character, that the protected variable or private variable, then we get an attribute error. Okay, that it says we don't have any type of variable which has variable 2. Okay, moving forward, so we have private attributes, we also have private methods. Okay, does the same thing like private variables does. It is also going to protect our stuff. Okay, so if you still want to access this private methods, then we can by using that particular syntax. So let us see. So like private attributes, you can also not use okay, but I like to tell you, it is not a good practice to access private variables. Okay, important, you should not try to access also. Okay, so like private attributes, you should also not use a private method from anywhere outside the class. Okay, and yes, if you want to access, then anyways it can be accessed like the same thing, like object or with an underscore character class name and then double underscore character private method name. Okay, to privatize the method, you just need to put underscore character in front of that particular method that you don't want the user to get to access it. Okay, as in here, if I don't want the user to access this display function, I just need to change this thing, like I don't want the user to access this. So I'm just going to do this to save this. Let's see what we get. We should get an error. Yes, ABC does not have, the class ABC does not have any attribute which is display as a display. Okay, but if I want to access it anyways, what I'm going to do is the same thing, underscore ABC and then double underscore the display. Okay, so but this is not a good practice to access variables. Now you can see I can get it. Okay, so this is how we have private methods. We have private attributes, private attributes and public attributes. Okay, like private attributes, Python also allows you to have private methods to discourage people from accessing parts of class, okay, that have implementation details. If you have something implementation details, then we can we use private methods. Okay, one more thing which I want to add for this is, like, we can also have a doc string similar to functions. Okay, in functions we used to have doc strings, right? So we also have doc strings for classes, where we define like explaining private methods. Okay, So this is also a docstring. Docstring is something which defines or which tells us what exactly functions do, but we don't write anything specific in the docstring. Okay, we are not going to write like variable 1 is this, variable 2 is this, and stuff like that. We're just going to explain what, in short, what exactly that particular class is doing. Okay, so docstrings are also possible in classes as we do in Python. Okay, as we do in functions. Okay, this is a similar way. Okay, in functions also. In the next video we're going to talk about something like, you know, some building functions like checking, getting, or I'll put a document link where I'm going to talk about every class attribute, building functions which are having class attributes. Okay, and then in the next video we're going to talk about like what is garbage collection. Okay, we're going to talk about static method and class method. These are the two most important things, and then we're going to talk about we are going to take few examples so that we have a great we have tough hands-on classes and objects. Okay, few examples in the sense I'm going to give you some exercises. I'm going to solve few of them and you can try it out. Okay, so this is it. Thank you. Come again. Bye.